Hello, everybody. Welcome back to BareRose Garage on another Sunday. Sunday. What's going on, everybody? Looks like we're waiting for everybody to pile in here. Meantime, we had Twisted Mopar. He jumped in there. If you're still out there, good to see you, man. Unfinished project. Up, as we call him. What's going on? Justin Hill, my neighbor just north of me. What's going on? Good to see you. Old McDonald has a car. Good to see you, my friend. And there's Twisted Mopar. He slid back in here. Good to see you, man. Oh, so what's everybody been up to this week? We've got a little bit more weather come our way. It's been oh Lord, it's been snowing and raining all day long today. They're still there. That's cool. Yeah, that's old Jamie Farr and Jack Elam and I forget the other guy's name from Cannonball Run. That's one of my favorite, both of them, Cannonball Run and 2. I love those movies. I think that one, yeah, that one's part 2. That's when Jamie Farr was in it, playing the Arab in the Rolls Royce. Oh, get that on my fingers there. I just got done barbecuing pork steaks. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. Actually about 3:45. Had to run the wife to the airport today. That was fun. She's working in Oregon again. Right in about in the middle of Oregon, over in Bend, Oregon. So I had to get up, take her to the airport, so see her off on the plane, and then hurry my butt back home and get all my stuff picked up, pushed up, get them all up out of the way for the nasty weather that's setting in. Yeah, it was beautiful last week. I got quite a bit done. Never get quite all of it done, but I got some of it done. Got a new battery cable ordered for the Lincoln. I was telling everybody, all you guys before, that was why my heater quit working. All the things and it went rich. It started just pouring fuel in. Now I got to change oil in it now too, because it just filled the oil pan full of gasoline. That's what those new fuel injected modular Fords will do. And it's all caused from a battery cable. It's not getting a full 12 volts, so she just hangs it all open and it shuts the heater off. It does weird things like that. Took me a while to track that one down, and then I stuck my multimeter on it, and yeah, I wasn't pulling a full 14 off of the battery cables when I started it up. So yeah, okay. Tested the battery. Battery was okay, but there's a connection. It's the goofy clamp, the new style clamps that's got a Y connection. I just got the replacement piece. So you just cut the 2 battery cables. One comes across to their main power feed fuse box. The other one drops down to the starter. I just got the one that you just cut those, strip them back, and then you splice them in to another Y that comes over to another new battery clamp. I'm just waiting for it to come in, and then I'll put that on there. shrink tube it all up and all that Jimmy jazz. Hey, we got JD's Vintage Auto in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Yeah, I'm in here talking about a 98 Lincoln Town Car. I really want to be working on something vintage. Oh, Andy Wood's pretty good with those modular Fords, but I'll tell you what, I despise them. And I'm a magnet for them. They just kind of congregate around me. The only reason I got that Lincoln is because, well, they threw it in with the 68 Mercury that I bought. So basically a free car. So I'll drive it until it doesn't run no more, and then I'll pull that disc brake rear end out of it and stick it in something else. Because that disc brake rear end, it don't care if there's a computer on it or not. Painting with my Taiwan $2 auction spray gun. It's working flawlessly. Way cool. Actually, for primers and stuff like that, I really like the Harbor Freight ultra cheap ones. I mean, the ones that used to be able to get for like $10, 10, 15 bucks. Those work great for primer. And for 10 bucks, 10, 15 bucks, you know, if you don't want to clean it, it's only, you know, 20 bucks. Of course I do. I clean them up and I try to get as many uses as I can out of them. But I know a lot of guys that just buy those ultra cheap Harbor Freight HLBP, you know, high volume, low pressure spray guns, and then when they're done painting, they pitch them because they're so dang cheap. But when it comes to body and paint work, I'm not the guy. I'm the guy that likes to show off all of the stories that a car's got to tell. Weather not supposed to change here. Oh, weather not supposed to change here till Wednesday. Then we'll warm up. Oh, cool. We're supposed to break about Thursday, right around in there. I'm just hoping it doesn't throw another buttload of wet snow down on us again, because all my trees are coming alive. I've worked on mod motors and LS, and with the experience, I choose to stop. I hear you loud and clear. Every time I pick up my scanner, my happy place just falls out of my head and scurries out the door. Hey, Ed's Machine. Great to see you, my friend. I only used to paint stuff to prevent rust. Now I'm in Arizona and don't bother. Oh, that's pretty good. And honestly, I like the look of a survivor. I like the look of the rust and the dents and the scrapes and everything on them. I really like a well done patina car. For one thing, you know it's an honest car then. if you see a rust hole this big, I'd rather see a rust hole this big than a Bondo this thick. You know what I mean? Those were 1.6 rockers. Oh, amen to that right there. Fake patina is nasty. And a good friend of mine, he lives up in Coeur d'Alene. He's got a beautiful little rat rod. Unfortunately, it was a The cab was one color, the bed parts were another color, one fender was another color. So he opted to go the fake rust, the rust you spray on, and then you spray an activator onto it, and it instant rusts, and it's fake patina is what it is, rust patina. At about 20 feet, well, even at 20 feet, you can tell it's not real. uh, it, he's really proud of it. It looks, I guess you could say it looks good, but it looks like paint. It doesn't look authentic, real. And that's a hard thing with a patina car, because if you got a rust spot in it, you got to leave it, because if you fix one thing, you got to fix the whole car, and then you're painting the whole car, or you're going into body shop purgatory. Hey, Terrence, good to see you again. Just quit from replacing the water pump on my '02 Yukon, sitting in my S10 eating some nasty McDonald's. Ooh, that stuff will kill you. After I'm done, I'll head home and I'll be able to sit, visit, and relax with you. Sweet, Terrence, we look forward to seeing you. And yeah, slow down a little bit on that McDonald's. But when you're done, you can wipe your fingers off on the spindles. You know, it makes pretty good axle grease. Good storied history, non-fiction. That's right. That's what a patina car is. The thing that does perturb me about the patina crowd, and I'm a member, full-fledged member of the patina crowd, though, is when people try to get high dollar on patina cars. That just gives us all a bad name. There's no substitute for well done body and fender work. But clear coat, it doesn't add value. It just adds curb appeal. So, what's everybody else been working on? I got my lift props in, the big, tall jack stands for my two-post lift. I got them all set up and ready to go. I haven't really used my lift to its full potential, and I didn't want to until I finally got a hold of a set of those two-post props. It's only original one time, that's right. Even if the original has gotten kind of shabby with the elements. And like I said, it tells a story, and I like the story. You walk up on a car and you see a little whop in the back quarter panel, and you think, what caused that? What, there's a genuine story behind that. I picked up a '59 Lark with a seized flathead 6 in it. Oh, sweet. I know where there's a I know where there's a couple of them. Bronchitis and an inner ear infection? Oh, good Lord, Twisted. I hope you're all right. That bronchitis is no joke. The paint on my 91 Caprice was not aged very well, but luckily it doesn't have any rust knocks on wood. So I'm gonna smooth it all out and use some Vice Grip Garage Shine Juice. That stuff, when his juice first came out, I'm a big proponent of Poppy's Patina. And if you look at Vice Grip's bottle, Shine Juice bottle, it's the exact same logo. It's the exact same bottle. I don't know if he partnered up with Poppy's Patina or what went on there, but it looks like the exact same stuff. And if it is the same as Poppy's Patina, it's dang good stuff. And it's made right here in the United States. And it's made by a body and fender guy, a painter. And so it's formulated so later on, if you change your mind and you do want to paint it nice, you can paint right over it. Well, you got to scuff it and everything and clean it, but then you can paint right over the, do your body work or whatever over the top of it. If you use linseed oil is nasty. If you ever try to paint over the top of it, it contaminates the ever-living bejesus out of the metal, and you'll get fisheye problems and adhesion problems, all kinds of stuff if you use linseed oil. So I recommend not using linseed oil. Yeah, but that Poppy's Patina and Vice Grip Shine Juice, I'm pretty sure is the same stuff. Good stuff. And the last time I checked, it comes in 2 shades or sheens, satin and high gloss. And it's cheap. It's through Poppy's, like I said, I've only looked through Poppy's Patina, but enough to do 2 cars is like $150. Yeah, and it's nasty. If you've ever tried to fix that or get that off to actually do your body work on it, and you've reached the stage where you want to go ahead and bite the bullet and make it look nice. Oh Lord, linseed oil caused you so many problems. And then you put it over the whole car. Oh, and it's just it turns a hard job into an extremely hard job. As soon as anything says oil, add on a big no around a car and paint. Exactly. When I worked at the resto shop, when we bring a car in after being sandblasted, yeah, you didn't even touch it with your bare hands. Just the oil off your fingers will cause bad things to happen. And boy, we went through boxes and boxes and boxes of 3M, the mechanics surgical gloves. Oh, my hands, they took forever to come out of that, because they sweat inside of those, and you're in them all day long, constantly changing them because they're always tearing out right here. But yeah, oil and bare metal, yeah, it's not a good idea. I have a full roller 250 i6. I started building for an Opal or Opala. I think you mean Opal. I think I don't know what an Opala is. Customer bailed, so I might put it in the Lark. Sweet. 250 Chevy. The 250 Ford, that one's a little crazy. They got that dang integrated intake manifold. The intake is part of the head, so you can't change it. Kind of like oil-based paint on cars. I guess there's some exceptions. Brazilian Chevy. There you go. Hey, Eric. Good to see you, my friend. You got it. Here, Opel was sold under Buick. At a Buick dealership is where you go to get an Opel. But they didn't sell very good here. And they didn't sell for very long. United States, we have too many regulations on them. Basically a Nova. Okay. What is it? Nova, Omega, and what was the Pontiac? Starts with a V. Ventura? No. Yeah. Rob's Rods and Streetcars. What's going on, man? Great to see you. You hiding your brother there somewhere? Ventura. Yeah, it was the Ventura. The Bastard Novas. And the Skyhawk. Or Skylark. I always forget the Buick. I don't know why, because the only car I ever bought off of a car lot was a Buick Skyhawk. Oh, yeah. GTO by badge only. But for what they were in those eras, they weren't. You stick something else in them, they made a pretty good little car. Yeah, just like the Nova. Yeah, and the Omega. I almost bought an Omega. It was a trunk car. What they call that? A coupe or a notchback, I guess. It didn't have the hatchback. We had a 76 Nova with a hatchback. It was my Aunt May's car. And that car, the whole time, she bought it brand spanking new right off the dealer. And that car never went over 45 miles an hour. Well, when she'd bring it over to the shop, Dad would get in it to blow all the carbon out of it and take it out on, just nail it out on the back roads and open it up and just, because that thing would get so loaded up. But everywhere my Aunt May went, it's 35 tops. 35. That was fast for her. Had a little 250 Chevy straight six in it, automatic. Of course, my Aunt May, she was only, she was maybe 5 foot tall. She was this little itty bitty gal. In my hometown, everybody in town called her Aunt May, but she's actually is my aunt. She's my dad's mom's sister. She had that, and my Uncle Glenn, her husband, he had a 61 GMC. looks a lot like Ari's pickup, but it's a GMC version with the dual headlights and they got a little different grill in them. Did I have an Uncle Ben? What do you think? No, I didn't. Excuse me. I didn't. I welded several subframes to floors because the body mount bushings were all rusted out. Done plenty of that too. Decent platform performance, just not from the factory. True to that. It's like a Vega too. I've always had a soft spot for Vegas and Mavericks. They're just tiny. Well, like the Vega. If you squint your eyes real tight and blur your vision, it almost looks like a Camaro that was left in the dryer too long and it shrunk. But good Lord Almighty, are they both light cars? Jim's, if it ain't broke, fix it. What's going on, friend? Over there in Rapid City. .305 Monza. Hey, there's Mr. Terry Grover and the Grover boys. What's going on? Good to see you, Terry. We're just all just kind of hanging out this week. Oh, we'll see you later, Ed. Thanks for coming in. If any of you need any machine work done and you're over in the Arkansas, Missouri area in there, check out Ed's machine. He does some extremely good work. Or check out his channel and you can see how he does it all. I'm off here now. Got to drive home. Be back in a few. Sweet, Terrence. We'll look forward to seeing you when you come on back in. I don't know how long we'll run tonight, but like I said, I had a rough night. I took the wife to go see Josh Blue at the event center just south of me. In fact, it's still got the infrared thing on there. Boy, that shows up in camera like no tomorrow. You look at it this way and it's not there. It's something to do with the lighting and the way the camera picks it up. Anyway, he's a pretty funny comedian. We had a pretty good time. But yeah, it went a little late. And then, like I said, I had to get up like 4 o'clock in the morning to get her to the airport. So I'm running on not much sleep. It's only 3:30. You're on the other side of that time zone line. Yeah, it was a blizzard when I was taking her to the airport, but now it's rain. So whatever snow we got early in the morning, and it was like a nasty, heavy sleet. It just melted it all immediately. Josh Blue, that guy cracks me up. Yeah, if you get a chance to see him live, oh, he is funny. And that's pretty much what he was doing last night was his homeless guy stuff. No, that's right. No daylight savings in Arizona. You guys don't need to save that daylight. You know, that sun gets dang hot in Arizona. We put that up for a vote here in Idaho, but it didn't go through. I don't care which one they decide to keep it at, but I wish they'd just do away with the time change. I don't care which one, you know, it can go either way. Just do away with the change. It takes a good week to get acclimated again. Yeah, and old Josh Blue, he had a couple of hecklers tried to heckle him, and yeah, he don't take no guff. He put those two guys right in their place. Oh, you're up by up closer to the Utah and Nevada, that side, Flagstaff, up in the mountains. Actually, you guys get snow there a little bit. Landing Custom Classics. What's going on? And the cool thing about being in northern Arizona is you can hop the border there into Utah, and well, not giving too much away, but Utah is kind of there's a lot of cars in southern Utah. Kevin's Rust, what's going on, neighbor? Good to see you. You see that electric Ford run a 7.7 second quarter mile? Nah, it it don't interest me. Interest me. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, those electrics, they just don't interest me. Chino Valley, one day of snow. Hmm. We have a good friend that just moved out of that area. Well, he's got a winter home down there. He's a snowbird, but he sold his place there and bought a place in Overland, Nevada. It's about the same. He's a old Leroy. He's got he's got a heck of a car collection. Every winter he takes one of his projects from here in Idaho and takes it down there. He used to take it to Arizona with him, but now he takes it to Nevada with him and finishes it up, and then he brings it back with him. In fact, he'll be here right about now is when he comes back up here. Bring your bird over. I've got the paint gun. Maybe you should get into cars. The other BRG won't care if you work on them too. Yeah, working on cars is a hell of a lot more fun than working on chainsaws. That's for dang sure. About got everything in my storage area cleaned out to where now I can take all of the winter stuff that's in the shop that I just kind of threw in there to get out of the weather. Now I can get all that out and put it back over into my storage shed. I got lots to do. I even cleaned my paint mixing cup for the next time. Had the Studi Shaker out today until it started snowing again. Yeah, you seen that too, huh? Was it Thursday, Wednesday, or Thursday? My dad snuck out and he brought the 39 Chevy around. He waited till his wife was off doing errands, and then he snuck out and snuck the car out. He's reliving his teenage years. What do I have for a Studebaker? 51 Land Cruiser, bullet nose. It's a 4-door, but it's got the suicide doors on the back. That was the last year of the bullet. That's the only Studebaker I got left. Looking at a, yeah, I'm looking at a 60. I think it's a early 60s, maybe even late 50s Lark. I know where two of them are. They're both 4-doors, but yeah, I'm thinking about them. If weather is okay, should have the 62 Thunderbird back together tomorrow. Sweet. I see you got timing in that. '63 Lark 2-door sedan. I've seen that car. The Larks, yeah, when I was young, I hated them. I thought they were one of the ugliest cars ever made. But now, I really like them. And the Champ, it's the pickup version of them. Both of those, they've done growed on me. Yep, you know which ones I'm talking about. They're right up on the fence. And there's a pink one and a bronze and white one. And the bronze and white one's got the 289, but not a supercharger. It's just the B8 model. The pink one is a flathead. Like I said, JD, if you got up this way for Studebaker parts, if you wanted to put that old flatty back together, old Walt's got about 6 or 7 of those flathead Studebakers out there. A lot of them are in pickups. No idea what kind of condition they are, and of course, there's no superchargers on any of them. If there was, they were picked and sold a million years ago. But yeah, you don't know how many times that well, I was gonna do them as a package. Both of them have almost ended up in my yard, or to keep it out of the wife's range of vision, over to Landon's place. And back over hidden by the Dodges and his Mopar row, there's a Daytona in there. I think it was a 64 64 Daytona, but it's missing the front clip. The body looks like it's in pretty good shape though. And that one's a 289 car. Well, yeah, it's a Daytona. The old Studebaker Daytona. That was actually a fast little car for its time. Studebakers. I got a soft spot for Studebaker, especially the trucks. They look like they got a chop on them, and it's the way they are stocked. Same with that bullet nose I got out in the front yard here. If you look at it, the windows on him are only about that tall. Your side glass and everything, so it looks like it's got somebody's chopped the top. It doesn't. That's the way they are, but they're kind of cool. Oh, a Gran Turismo. I didn't quite like the front end on them. I like the earlier Hawks, Golden Hawks, better. But the Gran Turismo's rear end and all the drivetrain, oh, that stuff is golden. I've got a few spare parts, engines, trannies, etc. My car is a small block power Chevy now. Yeah, they fit right in there. In fact, I ended up selling the, what is it, 232 original. It was Studebaker's first V8 out of that 51. I sold it and the transmission to a guy that's putting it in a pickup, a Studebaker pickup. Same year, 51. That was hard to sell because that car, my 51, it's actually got very low mileage on it. And then I don't know what happened. That engine ran smooth as silk, didn't smoke, nothing. It needed a water pump because the water pump bushing is dried out and was a howling. Still worked, but it howled. So I told him about that. I showed him video of it running and everything because I had already pulled it and it'd been sitting in my shop. I'd been tripping over it for years. Anyway, I sold it to him, put it in the back of his pickup, and he took it in to have it regasketed. And the guy local here that rebuilds water pumps, he was going to have him just go through it. And it was locked up. I don't know if he left it in the back of the pickup in the rain and left it open for about a year or what happened. That just blows my mind. That hurts because that was a beautiful running little engine. And a Golden Hawk with the 352 Packard. With the Paxton supercharger on it. In fact, Studebaker had a hand in developing the first superchargers, the Root superchargers, blowers. They were, who was it? Raymond Leroy. He developed it for Allis and Chalmers tractors, of all things. But Studebaker was also kind of buddy with Allis and Chalmers. So Raymond did that that for them. And then he designed the bullet nose for the car style and their V8 for the 50 and 51 Studebaker. And then later, he developed the Paxton supercharger for the Golden Hawk, and then the Avani. Then after that, NASA said, that's pretty cool. So they hired him, and he helped us get to the moon. So Allis and Chalmers tractors, hot rodding, and Studebaker got us to the moon. Hey, Bear, I'm shipping my 65 Ford truck to you so you can finish it up for me. Oh, be careful of that. It'll end up sitting in the backyard with all the others. That is one good looking little truck there, Derry. I thought about putting a small block in my 59. Yeah, like I said, they just fit right in there. Probably why later on, when Studebaker finally folded up, in the last years, they were actually putting Chevy 283s in them. Because, like I said, they just slipped right in there, bolted right up. Well, you gotta change the motor mounts a little bit, but tranny mount stays in the same spot, or cross member stays in the same spot. That is just simple. One of these days, I'll open the hood on that bullet nose, and I can show you why it does that. And Studebaker's extremely goofy steering system. Hey, Cajun Coin Hunter. Been a little while. What you going on, man? Good to see you. Yeah, the McCulloch became a Paxton. And it's funny too, the new ones, especially on like the Fords and that, you take the guts. If well, the guts are probably wore out on one of them old ones if you can find one. But the new Paxton superchargers, centrifugal ones, the guts all interchange. So if you want the look of an original, but you want modern internals on those superchargers, it works. You just pull those out, put the newer stuff in it, stick it back together, and run it. What am I working on? Working on the ambition and the time to get out in the shop and work on that dang 58. I am so far behind on it. I knew it was going to be a while though. Anytime you take a car completely apart, blow it all to pieces, it takes a lot of time to put them back together. Especially when you're changing stuff around. Yeah, it takes time. I need me one of them TV crews, like Bitchin' Rides and all those guys. They can come in and they can build a whole car in 30 minutes. Yeah. But it wasn't a Studebaker Avani. They dropped the Studebaker off and it was just Avani, kind of like Ram. Everybody knows it's a Dodge, but it's not a Dodge technically. It's a Ram. Same thing. But they were very low production too. I've seen a few of them though. The I think the ones I seen were from the 80s. They still got the old look, of the Avani, which is a really weird looking car. In fact, the president of the Studebaker International Club, the big club that for all Studebakers, he actually used to live about half a block from the high school I went to, and he had a Avani sitting in his driveway forever up on blocks. Old Mr. Jinx. I went to school with his boy, and I'm good friends with him, Ryan. But he no longer has a Studebaker, but he is still a dedicated Studebaker man. He had to get rid of that car. And he was wanting it to go back 100% total original. And anytime you get into that, especially with these oddball cars, yeah, it's going to take you decades to put the car together if you want 100% genuine original parts. Like any other week, though, I got my link posted up there. I think I still got it stickied up there. Yeah, I think it's stickied up there. Anybody wants to hop on in? Hop on in. We'll talk about whatever. A lady drove into my Toyota and the officer called it a Ram. Some guy was trying to sell such a penny for 150 bucks, huh? I used to have a pretty good sized coin collection, but I don't know where the heck it is now. I don't know. Most of it, the stuff that was in it, just kind of sentimental stuff. Had a lot of silver dollars, but you worked for a Packard restoration shop. When interviewed, I was asked what I like about Packards. I replied, nothing. I like Studebaker. You still got the job. Oh, that's funny. Because they call that what was it, the deal with the devil or something like that, when Studebaker bought Packard. And they just kind of phased Packard right on out. Packard made some really good engines, though. But after the war, Packard got really weird with their car design. They kind of followed Nash's footsteps, or Nash followed them. I don't know which one came first, chicken or the egg kind of thing. But they kind of went into that bathtub torpedo car. They're weird looking. Hey, there's Tim 72 Demon. What's going on? Yeah, you caught one. Merged in 54, it ruined Studebaker. Yeah. It kind of, it was kind of the beginning of the end for them. I don't know why they didn't ever join with American Motors like all the others did. They tried and tried. Well, technically speaking, Studebaker's still in business. They're still a company and they're still going. They own STP. They've got a lot of other things. All they did is just quit making cars and trucks and vehicles. But the company itself, it's still going. Radios. If you get a Studebaker transistor radio, you know, them old-fashioned looking things, well, except for the Chinese knockoff ones, some of those are still made by Studebaker. Rolls-Royce wouldn't have a 12 or a V12 without the Packard. Like I said, their engines were top notch. What was that called? Wasn't the Fireball 8, but they had that straight 8 too. Landon will remember. I can see it. And again, old man Walt, he's got about four or five of those Packard straight 8s out there. But they were one smooth running engine and torque for days. I just upgraded my brake master and built all new fuel lines. That's what I use. Nycop line. I get the straight sticks of brake line. That's what I use for fuel line. I run it in generally 3/8. That's plenty good enough for any kind of street stuff. Bends easy. Well, aluminum bends too easy. Copper, I don't like copper. But the double flares on Nycop, I've never had issues with them. I've had issues with the tools. That's one tool you never, ever, 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 ever buy from Harbor Freight. Their double flare tool. Or as I like to call them, their single flare. Because they'll do half the flare one time, and then it strips the teeth completely out of them, and you get mad and you throw it. My dad, he's got a nice double flare tool, but it's a bench one. You got to set it up on the vise and you lock it in. But boy, it double flares so nice. And to do it, you stick the die in and it's on a rotator. So you pull it for one flare and you flip it and you pull it again and you're done. You don't have to fiddle around with it. But it's on the bench. So sometimes you got to be under the car in a tight spot. And so you always got to have the handheld old double clamp, double flare tool. And those little bitty little tubing cutters. I love those things. In fact, I got 3 of them because I love them, especially the old rigid brands. Just little bitty guys. You can get up into those tight spots and cut a fuel line or cut a brake line, flare it, no problem. I love those things. Get babbling there and I lose up on the chat here. I gotta run, guys. My regular 6 o'clock appointment is fixing to start. Sweet, thanks for stopping in, Cajun Coin Hunter. You're more welcome anytime. You got your eyeballs on that Packard? I wish I could have got that coop from Larry before Daryl got a hold of it. there's a there's another private junkyard up in the little town of St. Anthony here. A good friend of mine has got it. Some stuff he's a little steep on. Other things he's pretty reasonable on. In fact, he's the guy I got the 58 Ford 300 from. Well, when I bought him, it was a package deal. But my other good friend Daryl, I got the Fairlane from him, and he put me into contact with Larry, and they just worked the deal out, and I paid one lump sum to both of them. They split it however they split it, and I ended up with both cars. Yeah, you got to be careful with it, but not quite as bad as like I say, an aluminum or copper. I don't know if anybody runs copper anymore. I wouldn't, especially for fuel line. I wouldn't run copper line. Copper does weird things when it touches metal, so it's got to be rubber insulated all the way down. Yeah, it's just not a good idea. It's good for heat though. And aluminum, I don't like the way aluminum flares. And I don't like the rolls. No matter how hard you try, I've tried every trick in the book, sandwiching it between two sheets of plywood and rolling it, trying to get it straight again. And whoa, you got to be real careful when you're doing that because, yeah, you'll kink the crap out of it in a hurry. But you roll it out and you get it kind of as straight as you can possibly do it. And then you put it on the sheets of plywood and you roll it back and forth to get it to come out straight. I just buy the straight sticks and Nikon from O'Reilly's and have at it. Old man in the shop, built not bought. What's going on? Larry, Daryl, and Daryl. Yep, I know a lot of Larrys and a lot of Daryls. Yeah, vibration on aluminum, and you get that electrolysis. It's just not good. I know the more aluminum you put on an engine, the more ground straps you're going to need, and you keep them close to the power source as you possibly get to get that electricity out as fast as you can. That's a big reason for that aluminum corrosion is the electricity going through your engine block. And especially if you run green antifreeze. That's what Dexcool and all of those antifreezes are all about. That they got all the additives and stuff in it to stop or slow down that aluminum electrolysis. I've gone to using AN fittings and braided hose. I've been looking into that nylon braided, and that's kind of interesting. You got a tubing straightener that doesn't work good? Like I said, I've tried all of the, I guess you'd call it DIY backwoods stuff. Eh, it's tough, but it is a whole lot cheaper when you buy it by the roll. They're about, well, in that Mercury, running all the way from the back of the car to the tank, all the way up to the fuel pump, because I run it all the way under the bottom of the car, come up over the top of the fender well, all the way down, and there's only a rubber line about 6 inches long that goes from there to the fuel pump. That was all done in straight sticks of a Nycop brake line, 3/8. All of that, all of the fittings, everything, I was into it about $120 to run the fuel line and hard line. And then where it goes from the inner fender, where it rolls up over the top of the inner fender there, I lined that in 5/8. No, it's just 3/8 rubber line, but I'm using the rubber to kind of insulate the steel line from the engine heat. That was an experiment I had going on it, and it worked pretty good. I was afraid of it picking up the heat from the fuel pump, though, and chasing the line, the heat following the line up, and then that rubber on the outside actually holding the heat in instead of, preventing the heat from going into it. I was afraid of it holding that heat in there, but it seems to work pretty good. But the rubber connector line, that stops a lot of the heat from the pump coming into the line anyway. It works good. I really like the stainless braid. And boy, like Cousin Mike is saying here, it sure does look good. But under the car, I'd be happy with the black, nylon. There's actually steel in it. It's just not stainless steel all the way out. But boy, oh boy, cutting that stainless steel, because it's still rubber on the inside. Well, it's not rubber, but you know what I mean. It's not all stainless steel. Cutting that and putting another fitting on, those, oh, that is torture. You got thousands of little needles there, and you got to squeeze them all down, and you put your fitting over the top of them, and they always, yeah, that's torture. Think I'm going to start buying all A&N fittings and braided hose. Used it on my Edelbrock. They're a good fitting. Well, the AN stands for Army Navy. That's military standard for, and has been for a million years. And it's made that way so you can take it off, put it on, take it off, put it on, and it doesn't hurt it. And then you have JIC, which looks like A&N, but it's not A&N. That's hydraulics. Anytime you get into heavy equipment and stuff like that, anything with hydraulic fittings, those are JICs. They're a little bit different. Stainless braided is fine as long as all your grounds are good. Yep, like I said, the more of that stuff you put on, start doubling up on your grounds. Check every ground. Tape it before you cut it. Oh, yeah. I've used about, oh, Lord. I buy that electrical tape. Buy this, the whole ream, I guess. There's like 12 rolls in a ream. Wrap that up really good with it. And then I found a cutoff wheel actually works pretty good. Grab a hold of it and you can do a nice straight. Yeah, if you know how to use cutoff wheel good, you can get a nice, clean, easy cut with them. But boy, it stinks. Colleen Tebow, half pint slid right down in there. What's going on? Good to see you. I'd like to get a VRS carb, wanting to see if they build one for an 85. The only thing concerning about the VRS is it is a little taller. For me, that's not a big deal because that just gives an excuse to put a hood scoop on it. Got a hole, show it off. But on some things, well, even me, I admit it, on a 58 Ford, I will not cut that hood. I'll run it without a hood before I cut the hood. JIC is 37 and AN is 45, and where they end, the ANNs are more steep. JIC is more shallowed out at the very tip. Yeah, where it goes from I think they're both 37. 45 is double flare, but JIC's got the nose of it is shaped different. And they will screw together and they will leak. But mostly JIC is big. 3/8 JIC is pretty hard to find. That's pretty small. Good Lord, they go 1.5 inch, 2 inch. And there's Lord 7/8. Yeah, the 7/8 one. If you have any kind of equipment, I've got a hydraulic valve out there that takes 2 7/8 JICs. I forget the number on them. They actually go by a number. But holy cow, hold on to your socks if you ever have to buy one of them. They were $140 a piece just for the fitting. It's an old style. They don't use it anymore. On the backhoe that I built, the hoe part, I used all of the old controls, and that was a 63 International. So it had all the old sized JICs. Good Lord, trying to find one. I had to have it shipped in from, I was back east somewhere. And like I said, they were beyond expensive. Yeah, the hose is different sizes. Hydraulics, a whole another game. It's cool though. If you get into it, it's a lot like an automatic transmission. Uh, it's all about the flow. Max Wedge Dick Dastardly, what's going on? Good to see you. I see you changed the spelling of your name there a little bit. I hope YouTube's leaving you alone a little better. I had to make you a mod just so your comments would show up. It's been a long time. I worked on equipment in the Army. Airplanes use AN lines. If any of y'all get a chance to actually dive into an airplane, well, that sounds really weird. Aviation is actually really cool. Really, really cool. A good friend of mine, he bought him a 61 or 62 Cessna Piper, and he's been rebuilding. Well, he bought two of them, one that he's flying now, and one of them that was for parts, but now he's getting it all together. So he's going to get it together and fly it too. But I've been helped him a little bit on it, and yeah, the stuff you learn with aviation engines, pistons, of course, nobody can afford jets, but piston engines in aviation they are beyond simple, and they're made that way for a reason. Hey, Terrence, good to see you again. You just slid right back on in there. Hopefully that McDonald's stayed on down. Aircraft salvage yards. Get all the fittings and line you need. Used to be able to get it at the Army surplus store here too. They had buckets of it. But now they caught on to the prices on that stuff, and good night, they're expensive. Honestly, that's why I stay with a double flare. I just can't bring myself to spend money on the fittings, and I got lots of fittings for double flare, so it's easier to use the stuff you already got than the stuff you got to go get. Some furnace fittings are the same racing line fittings. Yeah, those are A&N. I'd like to find an old, good-sized oil furnace again. Boy, I'll tell you, when I was in HVAC, when they would run the natural gas line out in the country, a lot of people around here heated with diesel oil furnaces. They call them oil, but it's actually red diesel is what they run on. But when they'd run the natural gas lines out so they could hook all those people up, good Lord, we were pulling so many good oil burner furnaces out. It was unreal. Couldn't give them away. We were scrapping them. And now that I want to build an waste oil burner, I actually want a couple of those. And they're all gone now. There's two more pockets here that haven't got natural gas yet, but they're planning on it. I'm just waiting for it, because as soon as they do, they'll start popping up again. I already got the bubble gut. Yeah, You can trust a lot of things in this world, but you can't trust a Taco Bell fart. That's for dang sure. I narrowed up 8.8 for my S10. Sweet. Did you do that where you pop one side out, the long side, and then you get two of them, and then you stick the short side from the other one back into the other short axle, all of that centers them up and shortens them up pretty good too. Been playing with my titanium welder. The gas really helps. I still suck, but getting better at getting the penetration better. Sweet. Uh, uh, when I went gas, oh, it changed the world for me with welding. MIG is where it's at. It is the most forgiving, easiest one of all of them to learn. And you can go up and down with your thicknesses on the fly pretty much. So, yeah, if you need any advice or anything about it, look me up. I'll be more than happy to help you any way I can with it. The biggest thing to do is just get out there and do it because it's 99% feel and experience. And you hear it, you see it, you'll get it. We have an 884 link from an 05 Mustang if anyone is looking. I always just made my own 4 links. We we make our own out of leaf springs. Cut the ends of the leaf springs off, and we use it's about 3/8, maybe even 1/4 inch box tubing. Cut a slot in it, and then cut it to shape, and then you slide the end of the uh, leaf spring that you cut off. Your bushing and everything's out here. And you slide that into the box tubing, and then you cut the box tubing into triangles like that, and then you pound it, heat it on the top, and you pound that down to a 45 on both sides, and you weld the ever living bejesus out of it around on that leaf spring end, and that makes one heck of a good 4 link for a driver, because then you're still rubber mounted and everything. You don't get that hard beat the pee out of your neoprene. The secret to welding spring steel is you got to get it hot. And once you get that steel hot, and it'll turn like a dull red, once it gets to that nice, pretty color, just start laying it in. Just start rolling it, and you'll watch as that dull red cherry just kind of follows about yay far away from your arc, your puddle. Just keep it rolling nice and slow, watching also the glow as it's going, so all the way around, and then you let it cool naturally. One of these days I'll do a video on, well, when I need to make another set of 4 links. I'll do a video on that whole process. Oh, and then you take a wet towel, terry cloth towel, and you soak it. Just get it nice and wet, and then you wrap around the leaf spring end, and that'll save the bushing. It'll make a heat sink right there. And it keeps everything nice and still and tempered. So a lot of people say you can't weld spring steel because it becomes brittle. But if you do it that way and you watch your temperature all the way down, and you float it like that, it'll still retain a lot of its spring, so it's not brittle. If that makes sense. Makes it stronger by being springy on the ends, of course. Yeah, I get to babbling. Now I narrowed the frame 5 inches, so I took 4 inches off one side, 7 inches off the other, made both axles 23.5. Sweet. That's the cool thing about the 8.8 and the 9-inch. They sell so much aftermarket stuff for it, and just, you know, doing it yourself like this, they're so simple that it's easy. And they're a good rear end for an 8.8 in a street application. Probably not ever going to hurt one. And they don't take as much power away as a 9-inch. 9-inch is actually kind of a power hog, but a 9-inch is very strong. But there is a lot of parasitic loss in a 9-inch. Trying to keep the metal hot. Well, it's not a hot rod until you get the metal hot. That's actually where I came up with that saying, keep the metal hot. I read in an old hot rod or hop up magazine, and they were talking about where the term hot rod come from. It's from welding rod. You're getting the metal hot, and with the metal, with the welding rod. And so that kind of was the inspiration for how I came up with keep the metal hot. That's a little play on red green. At the end of every show, he'd say, you know, keep your stick on the ice. We're all in this together. So it's kind of a merge between that and building a hot rod. Mine come out of an Explorer, so I had disc brakes. You had the little bit newer one. I've got a 94. Mine's still drum in the back. But it's still an 8.8. Posi, too. Speaking of welding, did you buy a foot pedal for your titanium welder? No, I don't do TIG. With TIG, that's the only time you need a pedal. You gotta have new material. Trying to weld, TIG weld, old metal, old steel. Yeah, TIG is very contamination sensitive. And you've seen the stuff I roll around and play with. It's good Lord, it's contaminated just when I look at it. So I have the TIG option, but really I probably will only use that once or twice. Even at the body shop, though, the restoration shop, my boss there, he has a nice snap-on TIG welder. It's huge, and it's all it is a TIG welder, and it's a beautiful machine, very easy to use. We never broke it out. to work on to do any kind of work with it, we messed around with it, you know, learning on it and trying out new techniques and stuff like that with it. But actually, in a job application, we never used the TIG. It's just it takes too much time. For one, you got to set it up. And the stuff we were doing really didn't need to be tigged. So just MIG it, get the job done, get it done right, and send it. And MIG, you can do all that with it. Oh Lord, I get to bambling there, and I lose track on the chat. Sorry about that. Could you explain 6013 for everyone? 60,000 tensile strength and 13 elements in the compound. Also, when and why to use them? 6013? I don't know. I'd have to hear that more in context. $6013 steel? I had always thought hot rod referred to hot roadsters, as that was a choice of car to hop up for the kids coming back from the war. Those and but they used all kinds of cars. But they used a lot of the roadsters because the roadsters were actually the cheap car. But yeah, that definition bounces back and forth and back and forth. Everybody's got an opinion on where hot rod came from. But I got kind of like the aspect of that, because then you're cutting it apart and you're welding stuff back together and you're making it your own, making it custom. So I lean more towards that one. But yeah, if you ever seen an actual roadster, a stock one, they had nothing in them, absolutely nothing in them. They were the base. I guess you could say the Roadster kind of was the first muscle car, because they had the V8 in them. It didn't put out a whole lot of horsepower, but it was the big engine of the day, the V8, and stripped down, absolutely nothing car. Maybe, but they were only a two-seater, so I guess they fall into it. They're a category of their own. Let's see, you get caught back up here. Yeah, too many things going on here. There we go. '96 to 90 to 01, 373 Posi disc brakes. Yeah, mine's a 94. I think that's the last year of that body style on that Explorer. Tigging will humble you. Oh, Lord, it will. Yeah, it's very frustrating. Oh, welding rod. Oh, okay. Oh, uh, different types of metal, different thicknesses, how much penetration you're wanting to get a hold of. It's different temperature ratings. All kinds of stuff is into them numbers. For thin stuff, but by thin, it's not body panels. Stick welding sheet metal, yeah. Yeah, and then the bigger the number, the more heat you're wanting, the more hard penetration you're getting. Different metals you're you're working with. I'm trying to remember the ones. I don't do stick very often anymore either. Honestly, if it comes down to that, I generally flux that, and that's only if I'm outside in the wind. The flux core is just easier to control, and I don't have to keep changing sticks midway through. Exhaust, yeah, 6013 on exhaust. 7018, that's about midpoint, yeah. You can really lay it in with 7018. And it depends on what I'm doing too. Like I said, like welding a tooth back onto a bucket on a backhoe, that, yeah, probably 7018, and crank it up hard because you're working heavy material, and it's dirty. Generally, if you break a tooth off a backhoe bucket, it's going to be dirty, nasty, rotten steel, and the person that is wanting it done, and they're wanting it done now, yesterday. Yeah. But if it's outside in the weather and it's smaller, I don't really have to worry about, big, heavy stuff, bucking a lot of penetration, or, steel, just lighter stuff like that. I'll break out the flux for that. But if the wind ain't, blowing good and hard, I'll just turn up my gas pressure just a little bit on my MIG, and then I'll lay it in with 030 or 03, 035 steel wire, and just lay it in and get it done. I do a lot of welding with 035 MIG. Just when you're outside, a little bit of a breeze, just turn your gas pressure up a little bit. You go through more argon, but you can, and that titanium welder, with the torch that it gives you, it doesn't buck wind too bad. And by wind, I mean a slight breeze. That's another thing with TIG. Yeah. If you have a fan sitting next to you and it's blowing across there, you blow out. TIG, you got to be in a closed environment, shop doors closed, on a bench, going to work. And it's, in my opinion, it's probably the most overused form of welding is TIG. Oh, sure you do. I can get massive penetration with MIG. I was burning in half inch, easy. And you see it. Well, you've seen it. When you sit in that backhoe, look down. Those steel plates, they're Oh, they're over a half inch. They're about almost 3/4 inch. And I welded them straight in. Uh, and you look on the back side and you can see penetration where that it penetrated hardcore. That's the heavy parts that I welded with it. But stick, now, like I was saying, with uh and it's different types of steel too. Like I was saying with the tooth on a backhoe, that's hardened steel. That's potent stuff, and it's super thick. Yeah, stick is probably the best way to go on that. 6011. Yep. Speaking of farmers, though, they all leave their welding rod in those steel it's just steel pipes, and you'll see them in the tool, the repair trucks and all that, rattling around, beating around, and it knocks all of the flux off of them, and they get contaminated with water. And oh, people don't take care of their sticks. And oh, a lot of used sticks, you'll see a yard sale or an estate sale. Somebody will have a whole container of welding rod. Most of it is garbage because they contaminated it and beat it up, and it's just nasty. I've run into that way too much, and just throw it away. But learning to stick, do it and learn it all. Learn all forms of, learn how to plastic weld even. Welding is the number one skill to learn in all of this custom car stuff. Even if it's not custom, sometimes you break something that, well, they don't make anymore, and you got to fix it. So if you know how to weld, cut, weld, shape metal, it's the number one best skill you can learn in all of this car stuff. Yep. You throw them out in the barn, you let the chickens run over the top of them, and the mildew and the humidity get into them. Yeah, you'll just flutter like no tomorrow. Or you strike it and all the flux falls off of it. Yeah, because that's what stick welding is. Stick welding and flux core is kind of the same thing. Just stick is a lot bigger, but flux is in a roll, so it's continuous. Stick, the fuzzy stuff on the outside of it, the flux, once that lights and burns, that creates the shielding gas for you. But yeah, go jump back to that too, Damien. When you was asking about what the numbers mean and what they apply for, yeah, it has to do with the metal, the type of metal, the thickness of the metal, how much penetration you're wanting to put into it. It's how you control your heat, all kinds of stuff. I used to find brazed bodywork and lead in all the cars I worked on. That's a that's a lost art now, is leading. Of course, It had its place way back then, but it's not good. That old lead is not good. It's full of contaminants. The new lead, if you can still get it, it's getting hard to find and get your hands on. And it is really toxic. But anytime you have to really put some body filler in, you got no other choice. You got to build up a 1/4 inch. That's when you use lead. But the new lead doesn't have as many contaminants in it. That old lead that they used around the seams and always at the A-pillar, where the A-pillar comes down and meets the cowl, that's usually always leaded in from the factory, how they attach the roof down onto the car. All of those seams are, generally speaking, leaded in. But good Lord, that stuff is so full of nasty, rotten contaminants that's where a body man really pays attention to. When I worked for Rex's Auto Body, we'd sandblast it all out, all the lead out. And then if it wasn't bad, it just little body filler. If not, Rex got really good at leading, and he would use the new lead to put back into it. Somewheres I'll find my pictures. We had one, it was a 55 Chevy. It was an early 55 Chevy pickup that, oh Lord, you could tell it was an early one. I mean, it must have been like the 3rd one off the assembly line, because nothing matched up on that stupid truck. Trying to get the body lines to all, and your gaps all to come out even. We worked that thing so much. And on the front end, well, the passenger fender was too far gone. So we just got a replacement one from, I think it came from LMC. But when we got it, on a Chevy, where the headlights come down, they kind of drop down into a V, kind of like this for the hood. The one side, the stock side, was nice, but the passenger side for the new one that we got went up instead of down. That one. So we had to cut all of that loose, rework the body line back down in, and like I said, that was extensive. So Rex had to use lead in that situation. Come out beautiful though. And still is. That truck's 9 years old now. And it was for Rex's father-in-law. And he's still driving it, this beautiful 55 truck. He's had the truck forever, and he finally, after he retired, he said, okay. And unfortunately, his wife passed away. He said, okay, I'm going to do the truck the way I always wanted it. So he brought the truck in and let us just have at it. Like I said, you guys let me bamble like this. I'll just keep right on bambling. I still play with my welder on scrap metal before I work on the real part. That's a good way to do it. I still use the thickness chart, and it's really, really close. Usually when I start with that, I only have to turn the knobs just a little bit. The inductance is the only one that you really move drastically. By drastically, I mean that far. I either blow through the metal or I don't get it hot enough. Watch your puddle. And what are you working on? If you dove right in on cheap metal, Yeah, sheet metal's hard. I'll tell you that right now. Sheet metal is almost expert level stuff. It's a lot easier to get two pretty good sized chunks, stick them together, and try to stick them together, and watch your puddle and watch the metal as it folds away and penetrates, and as you're filling it in, the thicker the metal, you crank that sucker up and just watch it, and you'll be able to see it better than sheet metal. Sheet metal's thin, so you don't actually see it. You just have to kind of know it as you're welding. So it's best if you're practicing to go as thick as you can. Just get you some old iron pieces, just good sized thick stuff. Stick them together and then try to do your weld on that. And you'll develop your feel, and you'll actually see it happening. So as you're hearing it happening, so when you drop down to that super paper thin stuff, it makes it a lot easier. I probably use me too. And I'm constantly learning too on it. Everybody is. My dad, he'll even tell you he still learns every day. Every time he picks it up and strikes it, you always learn something new with it. That's the fun thing about welding, is it never changes. It never gets old. It's always changing. Practice is experience. Yep. Sheet metal is more stitching, and you got to get in and out as fast as possible. You don't want that heat spreading, because that's what welding is all about, is heat management. That's the number one thing in welding. I found some small angle iron to play on. Uh, don't let bed rails fool you. Bed rails are spring steel. They're not normal steel. And don't try to cut it with a hacksaw. You set a bed rail up. I mean, it's nice angle iron, but it's spring steel. You set that stuff up, put a hacksaw on it, and go, and you'll take every tooth right off of that hacksaw. So when you're welding on old bed rails, if that's what you're using there, it's going to be a technique kind of like what I was saying with those leaf spring ends, because it's the same concept. They're spring tempered. They do that to stop the squeak. So when you're burning them in, if you're using bed rails and you're burning them in, it's going to react different than mild steel. Mild steel is general, what most everything is. Don't make a bead on sheet metal, make a puddle. Yep. Kind of call it the dauber. You start, you just, and then you move about, depending on where you're at, with your temperature and everything, generally about yay far. Hit another one, a dauber, and as you're working that, you'll get a feel for it on how long to hold the trigger, and you'll watch your puddle. It's all about watching your puddle. When it starts to lay over like this, you gotta take it off, and as you pull the trigger off, you just kind of up a little like that, and what it'll do is it'll lay that puddle right down, so there'll be very little grinding, and then you just keep, then you move over, back, and then till you start stacking them on top of each other. And if you're in a tight spot and it's the only piece you got, keep a wet rag handy with you. So as you need to come back to the spot that is still a little warm, take and wipe it off with that wet rag and cool it down before you hit it again. Otherwise, it'll start warping and moving on you. Anyway, I hope that helped. You started with gas welding. I recommend everybody to start that way. Everybody that comes up to me asking, advice on getting into welding, they all say it. They want to start on a stick to do sheet metal. I can't even do stick on a sheet metal. That's beyond my capabilities. And well, since I got MIG and it's so much easier with MIG, I'm not even going to try to attempt to do it with stick. And I was my dad's slag hammer. While he was welding in the shop, for days on end, I followed him around with that chicken hammer, just breaking slag, cleaning slag. Oh, I hate it. I absolutely despise it. Why I don't really do flux much either. Because if you flux and you lay a bead out, or you do a daub, like he was saying here with the sheet metal, you do your daub there, you got flux over the top of it now. Now you got to get rid of that to go back on top of it. Otherwise, you'll contaminate your next one and you're not going to get any penetration, as good a penetration, and it's going to be a contaminated weld. You'll have air pockets in it. So to flux or stick, you do all of those, and you go through and you chip them all off and you clean them up. And then you go through and you do your more, do it, clean it all off, get all the slag off, and then come back. With MIG, you don't have no slag. So you can hit it and then you can turn right around and hit it again and you won't contaminate because there's not the slag on top of it, if that makes sense. That's why it's so much easier. TIG too. TIG, you have no slag, zero slag, and you got very little heat. That's the joys of TIG. You can do, I've seen guys weld razor blades together with TIG. I'm not that good. Mostly because I don't like spending a day and a half cleaning the metal so I can sit down and clean the metal again before I start welding on it. I just break out the MIG, get it done, send it. Than just trying to do butt welds. Way cool. Another good thing to do too, another good little practice thing, is take a piece like this and a piece like this and stand it. Put a tack on this corner and you'll watch it go and pull over. Don't touch it. Don't pull it back. Use your heat on the other side, on the other opposite corner, to bring it back straight. And see if you can walk that back and forth like that and still keep it straight. That's also really good practice for that. That's one of the things my dad had me doing, way back. And it sounds like you're trying to, you're learning how to keep it straight. But actually what you're doing when you're doing that is you're learning about the heat and the penetration. So you'll know how hard to hit, and then how long to pull your beads when you finally get it tacked in and you start laying a bead on it. You'll see it move again. So you go back on the other side and roll it for a while and you bring it back, and it'll teach you that how to manage your heat. And it's visual then because you can see it. Whoa, it'll dance for you. Your brother-in-law welded all the body on his dart swinger with a 110 stick welder. Oh, oh, that's a lot of work. But back in the day, that's what you had to do. That's what you had. Or you brazed it, settling weld. And honestly, that's something I haven't really dabbled much with. Mostly because the cost of settling now. Have you guys priced that? Holy cow. Thank God for plasma cutters. there's a reason they don't use the torch a whole lot. I only use the torch when I need to use the torch. Other than that, it's mostly for shaping and stuff. I use plasma cutter because acetylene and oxygen is not cheap anymore. Heck, argon mix is expensive. 100% argon, get out. Heavy stick welding on my custom wrecker bed last week. All grinding. Yeah, boy, you get up close and personal with a grinder when you're stick welding. Same with flux too. Flux, because like I said, they're basically the same thing. It's just flux is continuous. You don't have to change stick. It just continuous going. One day I'll have to do some video on his swinger. It's plum crazy purple. Yeah, I've never even seen that car that I know of. Isn't it missing an exhaust manifold on the driver's side or something like that? He's looking for a set of headers for it for a 340 in an A body with power steering. And I know, guys, probably impossible. Zero flux given. I hate chipping slag. Like I said, I've done it for years and years and years, and yeah, anything I can do to get away from chipping slag, I do. You can get Map the Gas and oxygen torch kit at Tractor Supply for cheap. Works good for heating metal. Yeah, or you can get a scrapping, or we call them a scrapping torch. It looks like a regular cutting torch, but it's for propane, and you run propane and oxygen too. Map gas has gone up too. I'm glad I bought 3 bottles, no 4 bottles, because uh, I caught Ace Hardware when they were having a big clearance sale when they were moving their store around, and I grabbed that, a torch kit with the bottle, and then I bought 3 bottles, with it. Long story short, they've almost doubled in price since then. Holy cow, and that's just the little ones. Still have the torch from the 70s. Rarely use it. Dad taught me to braze with it. Sweet. That that is a definite good thing to learn. And the torch will always have its place. The plasma, that just cuts metal. You can't shape it, you can't move it. And the plasma will only cut so thick. But with a torch, You can cut some pretty heavy stuff with acetylene. If you run propane, like I said, a scrapper torch, they got a bigger head on them, is what it is. They cut. They'll cut good for thickness, but it's a dirty cut. It floats out everything. You can't get a good crisp clean cut. And with propane, you're heating a lot of area, so you get a lot of metal fatigue in anything that you cut with propane. So if you're cutting it to put it back together, you're gonna have to do a lot of grinding to get back into good metal. Acetylene doesn't do that quite so bad. You just clean it up real good, and then you'll get good steel again to weld to. That's why we call them scrapper torches, because they're cheap. Propane's a lot cheaper than acetylene, and you didn't care. You were just cutting stuff up to throw it in the recycling bin. He has headers, but wanted to go back to manifolds. It's in Caldwell. Yeah, my dad always used propane. I hated it. We have a neighbor that, yeah, that's all he'll use is propane. He swears by it, but if you're ever up this way, I'll take you over. And you can see some of the stuff he's built with that. It's dirty. It's yeah. There's 101 ways to do a job. Only about 10 of them work. Well, with that, we've been on for about 2 hours here. I generally go until, let's see, looks like Uncle Tony's live right now. JV's Little Shop was live for a while. He might still be going. I don't see him. But yeah, I think I'll go ahead and close her down for the week. And if you guys want, go ahead and jump on over to either of those guys, and we'll keep on rolling this out in the chat there, and somebody's live. Thanks a million for everybody for coming out. All of these names that you see popping up here in the chats, if you see somebody you haven't recognized before, go check them out. These guys are awesome. All of you guys are awesome. And thanks for coming in, and we'll see you again next week. Until then, somebody call me up on the phone and tell me to get my ass out there and get the metal hot, because I'm way behind on that 58. Thanks a million for everybody. We'll see y'all again next week.